Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at an event and also an It's Fixed, which is going on in the game. The first part is the celebration for US Airborne Day, and what they've done is they've brought back the UH-1C XM30, which we talked about yesterday. The good old US, or the Huey, which has the fun old gun pods. They've also got a decal, which is the insignia of the 19th Airborne Corps, basically from the 16th of August until the 19th of August. All you got to do is play 3 battles with American aircraft, and you can get yourself this decal. You can find it in the holiday sections of your profile, and what we'll do is get into looking at the Huey itself. So this is the UH-1C XM30. Now, it's a standard Huey with some interesting weapon systems. Generally, when it comes to Hueys, and also just mid-tier helicopters overall, they're usually not that useful. Most people see the low-end ones as useful, and then the high-end ones pretty useful. But these like middling ones, maybe not so much, because their weaponry isn't great, and also the survivability is pretty much zero. This Huey only has access to a tow, which, you know, is okay. It's an I-tow, and it does alright damage. It gets 6 of them, which is okay, and then also you can bring along some 30mm if you want instead of the I-tows, or you can bring along some turrets or rockets with the missiles themselves. This machine does have secondary loadouts, so you can actually edit stuff, but you can see here, you're not even allowed to bring along anything with the good old tows, which is kind of sad. So basically that is your weaponry. You have this and that's it. That's what you have to deal with, unless you want to go on rocket runs, I suppose, with the 30mm. So the vehicle itself doesn't have a lot of survivability. It doesn't really have a ton of armament compared to a lot else out there. But overall, you know, it's an okay, I suppose, premium, but there are just much better ones for the American tech tree. Obviously, the Greek Apache, for example, is much better, or even just getting the YAR and using that to research. The other thing is, it is only a rank 5, so you can't even research the high-tier rank 7s with it efficiently. You can only research all of these guys, which kind of sucks. And also now, with the addition of this button, which is the research of helicopters by playing ground vehicles, you can just use ground vehicles to research helicopters now, so you don't even need the premium helicopters. There also seems to be a bug with this thing where it doesn't show it's set up like this, like I'm left clicking and nothing's happening. So that kind of sucks. Hopefully they fix that at some point. The 8-7 lineup as well for America. You basically have the Rise P, you have the Bradders, which they have upped, and then you have a bunch of other vehicles which were at 8.0 and now are at 8.3, so not really 8.7. So the lineup is no good when it comes to it. You know, I suppose you could do the 9.0 lineup, which is a bit better. You know, the XM803, the Sergeant York, and then the TTS. But even then, it's a weak lineup compared to a lot of competition out there in other nations. So even though this vehicle can act as an okay tank destroyer if it has a superiority and nothing else is in the air, everything else about it kind of sucks. So I would say no to this. Also, we've had an It's Fixed to have a look at, and a Changelog that we'll also have a look at too. One thing I do want to ask before we get into this is, how's the event going for everybody? Are you able to get it done? We're nearly halfway through it now, and at least for me it's been going okay. I've been able to do all the naval aviation and also ground stars, even though it's been a little bit hectic, especially the last few days, but everything's been done, so hopefully it's been the same for you. I'd like to hear, just so we can kind of get some opinions on about how to get it sorted going forward. Now, in the It's Fixed, we first off start with fixing passability. One of the interesting things in War Thunder is, of course, traction. Traction is one of those ideas for ground vehicles that's been changed so much over the years, and once again, it's been changing again. Now, they did fix it in their head a few months ago, but now we have increased amount of fixes kind of going forward. So it says now solid and dry surfaces such as most types of ground and meadows on the maps will allow vehicles to reach higher maximum speeds, while unsteady surfaces like snow or sand will become less friendly to wheels and to a lesser degree for tracks. This, we'll have to see how this goes. They massively buffed wheeled vehicles when it came to traction changes a little bit ago, so maybe this will be a slight nerf to them, especially on stuff like snow surfaces, but it's hard to tell unless we're actually in it, so we'll see how it goes. They've also changed how boosters work in PvE modes and also EC modes, so for Sim. I'm guessing the reason for this is because boosters would run out before the event is over, so therefore they wouldn't be counted. Now they are going to count, and they do give an example of it, just so people can understand. It says, for example, if the player activated a booster for plus 500% for 30 minutes and spawned 1 minute after entering a session with 10-minute intervals, then the first 2 intervals he'll receive plus 500% bonus. While for the third one, 21 to 31 minutes since entering, the bonus will be plus 450% because the booster was active for 9 out of the 10 minutes. They also reworked single-use boosters in all modes. Now rewards for game time and activity time are boosted by all boosters in the session, and not only those active at the moment rewards are calculated. For boosters with a shorter duration than the player's session, the effect is also calculated based on how much time in the session they were active. So for example, if a plus 500% booster for 30 minutes was activated in a session that lasted for 35 minutes, then the rewards for the session will be boosted by 429%. The session time is counted between the player entering the session and the death of the final vehicle or the end of the mission. So overall, it should be pretty good. So instead of doing it by larger intervals, they're doing it by smaller intervals, which I think is overall quite nice. So we have all that, which is great, and also they have changed how you actually get rewards from shots. Basically, if you damaged the outer elements of ground vehicles, so optics, barrels, mounted, or external armor, this was considered an effective action against a vehicle, and that means that you were rewarded for it, even though there was no armor penetration. So what they've decided to do now is, instead of doing what they would have done in the oldie days, which is remove that reward because they don't see it as an action, instead they've expanded the list of rewarded actions. So now it includes all hits, even those that don't penetrate, from all guns whose rate of fire is less than 1 shot per second. So basically, if you hammer into a target and just chuck a bunch of shots at it, then you will get some score even if you don't penetrate, and also rewards, which is quite nice. It's nice that to me, that change there kind of shows the turning of the page when it comes to how Guardian would deal with issues in the past. In the past, they would have just removed the ability to get any rewards from that, but now instead, they're compensating other rewards, so therefore it is more fair for everybody. That to me sounds awesome. Now, also, you can admire prizes. So in the Achievements tab, if you go to the Summer Extreme area, you can actually preview the vehicles in the game. So if you want to have a look at them and kind of go through them, then you're able to, and this means that we don't have to do the workaround, which of course is the wonderful War Thunder Wiki workaround, where you have to, basically show it in game and do all that stuff. Instead, you could just click the preview button. This is fantastic. They've done this now for the battle passes, and now they're doing it for the event. So really well done. Super happy to see this, and it means that everybody can see this stuff much better. Also, they have once again modified the report section, basically making it that you can choose the using bots category for the report to tell us about suspicious accounts, so it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of put forward what you're trying to complain people about. It seems like botting is still quite prevalent. It's just moving around a little bit more, so people aren't seeing it as much, and now because people are getting a bit cleverer at how they're doing them, instead of just doing the same stuff over and over again, we're now seeing a lot less people notice it. So we'll see how it goes going forward. I know that they're working very hard to solve the issue, so hopefully that goes pretty well. In the other update things, they talk about a lot of the roadmap stuff that we talked about in the previous video. So I'm not really going to go over that again. You know, basically the spawn camping rule changes and also the invincibility indicator, stuff like that. But for ground vehicles, they did fix a bug that prevented sparks from hitting the detachable elements of ground vehicles, and also one that's been fixed where after ramming a destroyed vehicle in the commander's camera view, the game switched to the third-person view with a pop-up message that the commander is unconscious and the commander's camera is not available. There was also one fix that caused the reloading animation twitching on vehicles with animated reload, and a bug which was fixed that caused the crosshairs to diverge from the circle aiming marker when an ATGM carrier with a launcher on the top moved into the inclined surface. There was also a bug which was fixed where the collectible repair kit in assault mode didn't replenish the ammunition of machine guns and autocannons, which obviously would have been a bit of an issue. For aircraft, the Mirage 2000s, basically they've now actually changed the way that their NVDs worked. You could actually use them before researching the modification to use them. They've removed that now because obviously they want you to research the modification. And then also that's the same with the Tornado F3, which they brought in as well. The bug that has also been fixed, where the custom FOV settings in the cockpit or virtual cockpit reset after switching to third-person view or gunner's camera, that's been fixed too, which is wonderful. The Emil Batan, the name of the 152mm AP rounds has been corrected, and they've reduced the weight of it by 0.1 of a kilo, so 100 grams. Watch out. And that means that the ballistic parameters have been changed, which changed its armor penetration capabilities. The type of shells of auxiliary caliber guns on French battleships have been corrected, and the distance of the shallow waters warning message for larger ships has been increased, which is nice. And there's also a bug that's been fixed where AI ships were unable to fire their main guns, which would have been a little bit of a problem. For the economy stuff, we've already gone over pretty much all of the stuff that they're bringing in, but just remember the big change to all of this which has been going on is of course the ability to spend all of your RP earned in ground battles to research a helicopter instead of a ground vehicle, which is fantastic. It's really nice they brought that in, and hopefully will mean that people can enjoy helicopters a lot more. And finally, after many years, it's just nice to see a system like that. For interface stuff, you're able to preview all prizes now of the event, so not just the vehicles, decals, decorations, and camouflages, which is pretty cool. Just remember, not everything is final when it comes to certain things. I've seen a lot of people talking about the R73 and how it works in the game, and that's completely fine. It's always good to have a look at the preview of all these things, but as somebody who's done a lot of dev servers, a lot of updates, and a lot of events, it's amazing how many things literally get changed about a day or even an hour before it comes out, as if it's like a hotfix and then it just goes in. It happens like every major update. There is always that big old update to the dev server before things go live, and it just changes so many different things. So I'm always super skeptical and worried about anything which looks at these vehicles before they're fully released into the game, and even then they could just be completely changed a week later, which just makes stuff really hard to follow. There was also a bug that caused the reticle of the aircraft cannon to extend beyond the top of the screen on extra wide monitors. That's been fixed too. And also another bug with the replay camera where the third-person camera in battle remained with a jiggling effect, and that's been fixed. Unfortunately, I'm running into issues of myself when it comes to the game. The NVIDIA Ansel is just not working properly again, meaning that the green screen effect does not work anymore, and this seems to happen every so often with certain driver updates with NVIDIA, and it's really annoying, so hopefully the next one will fix it. Also, players who left a session are not replaced in the team list by players who joined an ongoing battle. Previously it appeared as if the battle started with an unequal team roster. Sometimes it does start with an unequal team roster, But this is obviously a specific issue that it's talking about here. There was also a bug that caused the countermeasures firing setting to disappear when mounting a custom set of suspended weaponry. Well, that kind of sucks. Also, the attached rope message would just appear in the air event after pointing the aim marker at the armored vehicle requesting a tow, which is fantastic. Can you imagine just trying to drag a tank with a plane? I think we should definitely do that. I've always wanted the big old helicopters in, just to kind of have a bit of fun and just like drag people around. No, it's obviously not going to be very useful in the game, but I think it would be quite fun. Then, also, there was a bug in the amount of ammo on the selected machine gun for the J1N1 in the X-ray view that's been fixed. Very tiny bug, but always nice to see. And also, a button to view a replay has been added in the battle results window, which is quite cool, so you can just go straight into it without having to worry. Then, there's an option to disable the displaying of the player names in the battle kill log that's been added to the battle interface setting. That's good. I'm still waiting for them to put in a big filter for names, because unfortunately when they went over to the kind of international filter thing, or whatever you want to call it, one of the issues that happened is the simple fact that what ended up happening is now that people can basically just put in derogatory names, and the filter system just isn't good enough to catch them yet. So I'm hoping that changes in the future. Then on missions, there was a bug that caused the air defense icon on enemy airfields to change after destroying enemy bases. That's been fixed. And the locations of the helipads in Stalingrad and American Desert have been changed to avoid direct visibility from the game area. I mean, fair enough. I think more of an issue with those helipads is you could literally just take off and look straight into the enemy spawn from there. But I suppose, that's one of the ways to sort it out. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how that goes. Those maps are not exactly great when it comes to helicopters because they're flat, so it's very hard to hide from them. But we'll see what goes on in the future, right? Like, that's the main thing as always. That is all the changes, and also the Huey and everything else. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Brendan Quinn, Vilneus, Character Fuel, Juan the Panda, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Bareen, Peter Grayling, Alan Hacker, Sem Alslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R., and also Lafouche for supporting the channel.